It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Welcome back to the program. We have Republican Mark Johnson with us. Mark is running for the Senate in District 15 in a Republican primary. It's an open Senate seat. And this, let's see, I was reading this Gazette article. This district includes all of Conway County, parts of Faulkner, Perry, Pulaski, and Van Buren counties. This is a big district. Mark Johnson, welcome back to the program.
Thanks, Paul. Glad to have you. Glad to be here.
Yeah. So, just talk to us. How's the campaign going so far?
Well, it's going great. I got a little tickle in my throat this morning. I was knocking doors in Faulkner County and the Spring Hill area yesterday evening. It started raining on me, so I just kept going and had one gentleman that kind of looked me up and down when he answered the door like I'd lost my mind, and he said, "If you can go out in the rain and ask for people's vote, I'll sure vote for you." So that was pretty gratifying. But like I said, I hope my voice sounds okay this morning. But I've been working hard, as you said. It's parts of 5 counties, parts of 4 counties, all of 1 county. But it's a big district. It goes from where Kathy and I live in Ferndale in West Pulaski County, all the way up to about 4 miles north of Clinton. So it's about 78 miles long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it certainly is a big district. You know, so it's an open seat. Obviously, Senator David Sanders decided not to seek re-election. Right. And so what are the issues for you, Mark, in this campaign?
Well, my original reason for getting into this is I was just disgusted with the issue of, we can call it ethics. It's really corruption. It's some of the things that you've been, going over in many instances on your show. We had something happen a little over a week ago. Former Senator Jim Argue, who was a Democrat, I don't think he would have minded me saying he was a liberal Democrat, passed away. He was a good man. He was an extremely ethical person, just played by the rules and believed in the rules. He passed away the same day that John Woods was convicted of corruption.
Wow.
I thought that was an ironic thing, but a lot of people don't know that several years ago, Dora Webb, who's now our state chairman, Republican Party, who was in the Senate at the time, he and Jim Argue worked together unsuccessfully to try to enact some serious ethics reform in the Senate, and only to be thwarted by the Democrat majority at that time, led by Mike Beebe and some other special interest senators. But I thought about that when Jim passed away, and here we are. We've got one on our side of the aisle that has just been convicted of that. And of course, you don't have to. You go through the whole line: John Woods, Jake Files, Hank Wilkins, Micah Neal, Eddie Cooper, and others possibly to come. We've got this culture of corruption, and you've been working hard to talk about it, but that's what it is, and it's been accepted by some, or gosh, I guess that's just the way things are. Well, that acceptance is unacceptable to me, and that's really ultimately what got me in the race. Is when I see that, it's just time to clean this up. There's just and again, you've done a great job of delineating a lot of the corruption related to the GIF fund, but there's other things going on. There's a lot of stuff, that's almost the low-hanging fruit to anyone who wants to see where the problem is. But there's other problems too, and they need to be rooted out. And I simply believe that we need not just rule changes in the Senate, which we do need, but we need legislation that will set the bar so high that these people will not just be prosecuted by the feds; they'll be prosecuted at the state level, and
yes,
they'll lose. When Nick Wilson was convicted several years ago, there was a loophole that's since been closed, but a very big loophole. He's still able to collect his pension for the time he was a senator.
Wow.
That's paid until he passes away.
Yeah, it seems to me, just based on the reporting that Conduit News did during the John Woods trial, that the feds, what the state considers maybe a loophole when it comes to attorneys passing bills for their clients, there may be a loophole in Arkansas law on that, but but there is no loophole as far as the feds are concerned. And I think that's what's going to. I think that's a clear indicator that there are more indictments to follow. But Mark, I want to give you credit. Back when we had the sworn FBI affidavit under penalty of perjury to get the search warrant on Jake Files, the RPA would not call for Jake Files' resignation. Governor Hutchinson wouldn't call for Jake Files' resignation. But you came on this show, and this is before you were running for Senate, and you said, hey, we've got to take the moral high ground here. We've got to call for Jake Files' resignation. He should resign. And I just want to give you credit for that, Mark, because
thank you.
It needed to be done by somebody, and you were the chairman of the County Chairman's Association. Are you still the chairman? I think you still are, right?
Well, the title is actually president of the county, and I still am. Yes, I am president of the Arkansas Republican County Chairman's Association, and I spoke to many of my colleagues around the state. And our job is to build the party at the grassroots level as county chairs. Now, I had to resign as Pulaski County Chairman because I'm in a contested primary. I pushed my filing date back a few days to make sure that I would make sure all our JP candidates, and we have an excellent candidate for county clerk in Pulaski County, but I had that responsibility. But I did have to resign because I'm in a contested primary, but I'm still remaining under the rules. I'm able to stay as president of the association. And we were concerned, how does this help, or really, how does this hinder our job as county chairs to recruit good candidates? Because, we've recruited candidates that wanted to change things and not contribute to more of the same kind of corruption we had when we had a Democrat machine running things. And I just felt, from talking to my other county chairs around the state, it was time for someone to step forward and say, this man needs to step down. Ultimately, he saw what happened. And we've had, since then, the John Woods conviction. But this is a stain on the Republican brand.
Yeah. Well, you were right. You were right to call for Jake Files' resignation because let's just say it. He pled guilty to the crimes that were testified to in that affidavit, and everybody knew it. And so it's not like it was a hard leap, But you were the only one. You were the lone voice in the wilderness, Mark.
Well, there were others, but being the president of the association, it was kind of on me to kind of be the spokesman for our county chair. Our county organizations are the backbone of the party, and they're the ones that provide the shoe leather and the muscle to go out and knock doors and ask for people to support our candidates, and I'm proud to be president of that organization. Paul, one of the things that when we look at all this stuff, the GIF money is, if you want, you can go out in your yard, you can probably find ants, but if I'm talking about the old-fashioned soft drinks with sugar in them, but if you just pour some sugared Coke on the ground, and you wait a little bit, the ants are going to come out and find it. And I'm afraid this is what we had with the GIF money. I mean, there was just too much temptation for the crooks out there, and they came out, and a lot of good was done with GIF money. Let's not take anything away from that. And I've got a lot of volunteer fire departments in my district that are going to need some assistance, and one of the things I want to work on is creating a mechanism where legitimate needs like volunteer fire department equipment can be funded through the surplus funds, as opposed to setting up this hodgepodge with the planning and development districts, with legislators treating it as a slush fund. And that's what has to stop. The Supreme Court says it has to stop.
That's exactly
But that
right.
doesn't mean there weren't legitimate needs that are out there to be funded, and I'm going to be working on finding a proper solution using the separation of powers doctrine to make sure that it's accomplished in an open and a transparent manner.
Let me ask you this, because I know you definitely you understand, the way things can tend to work down at the Marble Palace. Last hour, we were just kind of talking about how I think there needs to be a reform in the procurement process and the awarding of government contracts and that sort of thing. And, you have this Arkansas Legislative Council that oftentimes acts as a rubber stamp on the things that are put before them when it comes to spending money. And this kind of can tie in with the GIF. How do you allocate things for specific projects, and shouldn't the General Assembly be the ones that decide how the money is spent?
Well, the Legislative Council functions as a kind of a watchdog committee in the times when the General Assembly is not in session. And a few years ago, the Constitution was changed, and instead of the Legislative Council just giving advice to these independent and executive branch agencies, it actually has authority now to approve it. And basically what they're saying is, yes, this particular rule, or in your case, you're talking about procurement, follows what we wrote into the law. And it keeps an agency from basically thumbing their nose at what was written in the law. And procurement is about honesty, fairness, and openness. We've had some cases where some agencies have actually tried to exempt themselves from the law. A few years ago, the Game and Fish Commission, in effect, tried to write their own Freedom of Information Act and basically say, well, we're a constitutionally independent agency, so we don't have to follow the law. We'll just write our own little law. Well, that got slapped down pretty quick, and should have. And, but there's always been an effort, and more so in the 2017 session, to try to find ways to get around and to dilute the people's right to know. And transparency is one of the things I'm going to be working on. And I know I'm going to probably make some people mad with this, but, I don't believe that higher ed and some of the other organizations that think they are exempt from these transparency laws, our Freedom of Information Act, I don't believe they are at all. And I'm going to be working on some things to open it up and to make sure that the people's business is available for the people to look at. Back many, many years ago, when my dad was on the Supreme Court, he wrote an opinion, and I'll just kind of paraphrase it. It was a precursor to the Freedom of Information Act, but he said that denial of access to public records is not conducive to perpetuation of our system of our republic. And you think about it, the Declaration of Independence talks about the just powers of government being derived from the consent of the governed. And that's why you have to have this transparency where the people can actually see what's going on. I mean, how can they, petition the government for redress of grievance if they don't even know what the government's doing?
Yeah.
And that's why we've got to review this. We've got to open up the FOI and make it even stronger. We have one of the best ones in the country. Most people agree with that. You, for one, brought out the thing that happened in the race in Northwest Arkansas, where the publisher of the Huntsville newspaper stepped forward and said that this, we aren't for changing this, and it was the media, the primarily newspapers, but other media as well, are very protective of that, as they should be, because this is the people's protection. It's not to help sell newspapers or radio shows or anything else. This is to protect the people, and we're going to turn up the lights on these things. We're going to have a government in the sunshine when I get in there.
Well, and I think that's fantastic, because right now there's a lot of people that we need that transparency, I think, just to restore the confidence. I think there's a huge lack of confidence in our government right now, and that's a shame, considering that it's the Republican Party that has these massive majorities. We're talking with Mark Johnson. He's running for State Senate, District 15. That's all of Conway County. That's parts of Faulkner, Perry, Pulaski, and Van Buren counties. We're running out of time here, Mark, but I got another question for you. I'm just curious.
Sure.
I believe, I think we're spending too much money. I think we're increasing the size of government every year by spending more and more money every year. And I would love to get your thoughts on what you think the key driver of that increased spending is.
Well, people, unfortunately, tend to be lazy when it comes to getting in and digging, finding the places we can cut state government. Now, the governor's been doing this transformative initiative, and he's mentioned consolidation of state agencies, and I'm in 100% agreement with him on that. I think the pace has been a little slow. I think we're going to have to step it up a little bit. We just have to get serious about actually cutting some of the things of state government. You know, state government wasn't designed as a, like you hand an architect a contract, say, go design us something to do this job. It's one of these things where someone built a little house, and then they added on over here, and they added on over here, and pretty soon you've got this Rube Goldberg-looking machine. Well, it needs to be streamlined. You've got some redundancies. You've got a lot of things that, quite frankly, in the regulatory side of things, maybe we don't need to be regulating, or we can take 2 or 3 of these regulatory agencies and combine them into one with only one HR department and only one administrative assistant sitting at the front desk. There's a lot of just simple things that need to be done. It doesn't require bringing in, a task force or an out-of-state consultant or something like that to do it. It just needs to the people in the General Assembly and of course the governor's office too need to roll up their sleeves and get to work.
Yeah, I certainly agree with that. And you've got to find places to cut, and the tendency.
Well, Paul, let me add another one.
Yeah, go ahead.
You talk a lot about Medicaid expansion, and Medicaid expansion is kind of like that GIF. You spill that sugared soft drink on the ground, the ants are going to come out. Well, I'm not the first one to say follow the money. When you're spending billions of dollars in a program, there's going to be people trying to figure out how to get their few crumbs off the table. My worry with Medicaid expansion is, I want to help the people at the bottom that need help. I really do, and I want to make sure. But we need to draw that line where below that line are the people that need help, and the people above that line, they need to have skin in the game. They need to have to pay some real premiums, even if it's just a subsidy to their premium, not just giving them away. It's the old thing of, and I think I heard Josh Miller on your show saying a few days ago that we have people with developmental disabilities, with physical disabilities that can't get the home and community-based services that they need and actually deserve.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we're paying the private insurance premiums of a 26-year-old living in his parents' basement playing video games.
Yeah,
able to work.
And we just talked to him today, and we read his piece a few days ago over at Fox News. And what he said was, a lot of people are trying to say, well, Arkansas attempted to address the people on the waiting list who can't take care of themselves, and they say, we gave $8 million to try to help some of them. The fact is, we're spending $133 million this year on people who are able to work. And you can look at that person with the mental disability or the physical disability. And right now the state of Arkansas is telling them, well, if you would just get better and be an able to work adult, we'd pay for your insurance. Now, that is immoral any way you look at it. If we are really trying to craft our laws based around this idea of, we want to treat others as we would want to be treated, or you know what I mean. It's just not right. It doesn't make any sense. Our priorities are completely out of whack here.
Exactly, and Paul, you summed it up perfectly. The one thing you didn't mention, and I know you've talked about it before, is how many premiums were paid to Blue Cross Blue Shield or the other providers in the private option for people that were actually living out of state. They never filed any claim. That was just money going straight into their pockets. Was there enough money there to fund these disabled people's services? I think there probably was. It certainly would be enough to reduce that waiting list quite a bit that we were talking about. This is a matter of setting priorities. There's enough money out there. A, we have to quit wasting it, and B, we have to set the priorities to people who are truly in need and quit paying for people who treat the social safety net as a hammer.
Let me ask you this. just real quick, let me get your more of your thoughts on on this private option. Do you think in hindsight that this was a good idea? And what I mean by that is, it's now vastly more expensive than they ever thought, and they tried to say it was a free market solution to give all this money to Blue Cross Blue Shield. Do you think it was a free market solution?
No, I don't, Paul. And I've told people many times that if in 2013, if I had been in the legislature, I would have voted against the private option as it was presented. Now, whether I would vote for any continuation in the future is going to be based on some things being done to change it. I appreciate the fact that the governor got the waiver on the work requirement. I really appreciate that. That needs to be tightened up where it truly is a work requirement, not just, well, I went sniffing around yesterday and I couldn't find a job, so I guess I'm okay on this. That's got to be changed. What the governor was not able to get is the waiver on the lowering the threshold to 100% of federal poverty level, and we need to get that. And that's when I say draw the line. Now it's at 138% of the poverty level. We need to draw that line lower where it truly helps the needy and not just people that are able to work and just refuse to. But there's a lot of things in the details of that could work out to millions of dollars in savings. Now, it's the old thing of Medicare is
Mark,
a poor people.
Mark, we got it. We got
to make sure it's
I'm sorry. We are out of time. I've got to get these ads in, and I appreciate you coming on the program, Mark Johnson, and best of luck to you. And we'll talk to you again.
Thank you, Paul.
Okay. All righty.
Thanks.
Mark
Bye-bye.
Johnson, everybody, running for Arkansas State Senate District 15. We got to take a break. Back in a minute.